Stereolab was founded in London 1990 by Tim Gane and Laetitia Sadier, forming after the dissolution of Tim's previous band McCarthy, which was responsible for them getting to know each other in the first place. McCarthy had played a show in Paris a couple years prior. They got to know Laetitia, and she actually came out to London to contribute some vocals to the final album that McCarthy produced. They grew their love of music into a romantic relationship that lasted 14 years. During that time between 1990 and 2009, they released almost as many albums before their indefinite hiatus. They started up their own label entitled Duophonic Super 45s and released Peng, their debut album, in May of 1992. They'd add on to that album's droning, lo-fi, guitar-driven art rock sound with some added ambience and easy listening additions influenced by krautrock and 60s, 70s French pop. It would increase the band's profile, and after the release of their Space Age Bachelor Pad EP, they would sign a deal with Elektra Records to record and release their next album overseas. In March of 1993, they came out with transient random noise bursts with announcements. 1994 saw them breaking through the UK charts for the first time with a single off an EP, and later that year they'd come out with their third album. In August, they released Mars Audiac Quintet, and it would see the band shifting their sound away from rock and more towards accessible pop, but doing so while continuing to defy most pop conventions. They don't oversimplify or preach their message, and they don't compromise on song length or structures. The lyricism itself that Laetitia adds to Tim's already super interesting layers is giving this music such an intelligence and depth that allows it to have such a worldly, timeless quality about it, and really makes the listening experience enjoyable regardless of how deep you dig into it. That amorphous, retro-futuristic musical escapade continued, with them leaving behind that lo-fi sound, experimenting with more loops and electronics, adding in some jazz, funk, dance, and hip-hop influences that would all bleed into this. The band's fourth album, their third through Elektra Records, released in March of 1996. This is Stereolab's Emperor Tomato Ketchup. The title derived from an experimental film from Japan in 1971. Emperor Tomato Ketchup is Stereolab's most immediate project. The layers of looping riffs all brought together with Laetitia's unfazed societal musings, their wide variety of instruments, band members, and guests makes for a highly stimulating and re-listenable LP. Listening closely to the past to better inform the future and putting forth an album that stands the test of time, Stereolab is such a fascinating musical rabbit hole to jump down, so progressive, and the unique fusions they pull off just send me spinning and reeling like this cover art. So I guess give me a few minutes, I'll gather my bearings and start to digest some of the entrancing tracks off of this magnificent CD. Starting from the top with Metronomic Underground, a song that pulls you right into the project with its looping, glitchy electronics and its grooving rock riffs. Sadier's lyrics mimic the simple repetition of the beat, and she adds her complementary layers as the beat adds its own layers. She aloofly kind of cruises through this simple tune about torpedoes. I guess it's worth mentioning that her native language plays a large role in her songwriting, with half of these songs being in French, and maybe I could have mentioned it earlier, but I don't think that comprehension is the primary reason that their music connects. Yes, the words do provide this deeper understanding, but ultimately just the sheer mood and musicality her even sometimes detached delivery gives to a song is more than enough for a listener to take from. Cyber's Liberté is the first of such examples. This album's lead single is in French, and I will still do my best to clarify the meaning behind it. It's a nostalgic reflection on childhood, and it asks the question, what do you do when you've kind of done everything? I really love the wonderful phases it goes through, shifting tempos from these quicker, dreamy choruses to more longing, drifting verses. Then we get another French one. Percolator comes in with this dizzying, repeated bass scale and whining horns. The lyrics seem to reflect the kind of disorienting nature of this song. I believe it's about all the people that you've kind of gathered around you for your life's journey and the worry that they might be taking you in a direction and place that you don't want to be. Droning into Le Hyper Sound, a fairly straightforward art pop song that pokes fun at nationalism and the silly stories we tell ourselves to justify fighting for a country. Its light and playful instrumental sort of points out that childlike nature that our conflicts seem to have. We get to further explore her ideas on identity with a loungier, jazzier cut titled Sparkplug. It sees Laetitia double down and specify that there is just no sense in aligning yourself with a group or an idea without first understanding that you are capable of thinking for yourself. Come up with your own way of interfacing with reality. The texture that the persistent ambient droning provides is such an immersive atmosphere and a perfect canvas for the beats, melodies, and lyrics to play and blend around on. I think OLV26 is an excellent example for this. It really honestly allows such flow between the tracks that doesn't make you feel ever too hung up on any specific number and makes for this album's nearly hour-long runtime to just zoom right by. Even when they do end up following up songs like OLV26 with the pretty standard alt-rock song titled The Noise of the Carpet, the fullness of the mix is still super satisfying, making you kind of want to gorge yourself on each of these songs, but when you see the next chorus coming, it's so well balanced and appealing, you end up going on to the next one and just consuming your way through this entire CD. There's even this late 60s sort of protest style song. It reminds me a ton of the song Your Move by Yes. It's called Tomorrow Is Already Here, and it's this album's prettiest cut with some of its most simply poignant takes on society, expressing its disillusionment with this marching, almost parading-like atmosphere. I like this track a ton. It's a highlight to be sure. The title track then bumps into the mix, but it may be the least memorable song of the bunch, with its nearly 2-minute instrumental opening that's then met with this detached pop delivery with a almost trapped cadence, if that makes any sense. The lyrics are convoluted and in French, so it proved pretty difficult, but I do believe that trapped sentiment is reflected here in the instrumental and the lyrics. Maybe this song is about the separation between an artist and the audience, but that could be a stretch. Monstre Sacré, or Sacred Monster, is about learning to forgive someone who's already passed on. It's a much sadder song. You can feel the hurt and longing in Sadier's delivery, and it's emphasized by the slow, wandering backing instrumental. I think Motorola Scalatron is named after the Motorola Scalatron, this old early electronic microtonal keyboard instrument that is basically a crazy looking electric organ that is used to fill in the cracks in a tune. Stereolab's wide use of older electronic instruments like a Moog or Farfisa organs that trademark that retro futuristic sound is probably the reason why this song got its name. Like with Tomorrow Is Already Here, this one's simple, repeated lyrics ask a clear question with an unclear, often contradictory response. Super poignant. This one's definitely another favorite of mine. I pick up some serious hop-along vibes from the song Slow Fast Hazel, with its vocal hook reminding me of One That Suits Me. I really love that whole album, and I love this song about the past and how if we were put in a situation as difficult as it was back then, most of us probably wouldn't survive. I think Laetitia's letting us know that we've gotten pretty soft. The album leaves us once again questioning our identity with a thoughtful closer, Anonymous Collective, that just has one thing to say: you and me are shaped by some things well beyond our acknowledgement. An ever important sentiment that we should probably take even more heat of in this, the ultimate age of consumption. Stereolab put together a beautifully subversive alternative album that is both stimulating and thought-provoking. They spread their sound across such a variety of genres and open up so many new fusions to explore. A creative triumph that I truly believe will stand the test of time. 6 more Stereolab albums would follow this up until 2009 when Tim and Laetitia would go their separate ways. If you do enjoy this, definitely don't miss out on the follow-up Dots and Loops. I have failed to mention an important part in the Stereolab chronology is Mary Hansen, backup vocalist, would pass away tragically in a bicycle accident in London in 2002, and it can't be overstated how much of an effect it had on Laetitia and the band as a whole, ultimately marking kind of the beginning of the end of Stereolab. Thankfully for us, they've survived till now in 2019. I think they might have run a little low on funds, a little ironic for a anti-capitalist band, but I get it. Artists gotta survive. They did some remastering of all their Elektra records and were just touring to support that, but Pandy kind of paused it. But they're still planning on doing some shows, so look out for a rare chance of getting 2 of the 90s most interesting experimental artists back together on one stage. It's certainly worth your time if you can find them nearby. I am abundantly grateful for anyone who's chosen to waste their time watching my video about Stereolab Emperor Tomato Ketchup. Thank you so much. I hope you liked it. If you want to listen to this, any of the music I talked about today is all linked down in the description there. Leave me a comment about Stereolab, or maybe check out one of these 2 other CD retrospectives I've put together. Some more great albums. Subscribe for your weekly dose of throwback music nostalgia. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take good care.